Rob Roper, president of the Ethan Allen Institute, a policy think tank, joins us to explain how a lobbying organization called the Vermont Public Interest Research Group, or VPIRG, exercises inordinate influence on our legislature. So Rob, VPIRG claims, quote, narrow special interests disproportionately influence elections, public debate, and the government's decision-making process, drowning out the voice, subverting the will, and harming the interest of the general public, end quote. Therefore, they claim to be working against big money politics. But isn't VPIRG the very embodiment of a narrow special interest group that's putting big money into Vermont politics?
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail right on the head. They are what they claim to be fighting. They say that they are working in the public interest, but if you look at what they're actually doing, this is a lobbying organization with a budget of over $2 million and 16 full-time employees, sometimes more, sometimes less, with a number of paid lobbyists. And take a look at their board of directors, and what you see is basically a revolving door for renewable energy special interests and other environmental special interests that are dependent upon subsidies from the state government in order to fuel their own bottom lines. So this is really a lobbying organization for special interests, not the public interests.
Right, and so let's look at their latest self-declared victory. This session, Vermont legislators passed the nation's most radical restrictions on single-use plastic bags. And the new law, it goes into effect next July. It will prohibit retailers from giving plastic bags to customers at the checkout counter, but paper carryout bags will be available for a fee of 10 cents. Right now, by the way, it's free. So, Rob, how does this law help the public interest?
Well, I personally don't think it does. I think that the plastic bag ban is some of the worst legislation that came out of this last session, because it's a total overreach. I mean, if you and I as citizens in a free society can't decide the question of paper or plastic for ourselves, how free really are we? Right. But even you take that out of the equation and you look at the environmental impact of this, a lot of the alternatives to the plastic bag, the single-use plastic bags you get at the grocery store that they're pushing, paper bags or the cloth bags, are in many ways worse for the environment than the plastic bags, because the paper, you have to cut down trees, you have to grow the trees, cut the trees down. That requires heavy equipment. Then you have to ship the bags, which requires, it's heavier. Paper's heavier than plastic, so more trucks on the way. And then you take the cotton bags that everybody walks around with their tote bag, but again, cotton, very environmentally tough crop to grow, pesticides, water, it takes a lot of water. Yeah. And these things are all manufactured in Asia. So then you got to put them on a ship, take them across the Pacific Ocean, land them somewhere on the Pacific coast, and then truck them all the way to Vermont. Right. So they're terrible for the environment. And you're, insult to injury, you're rewarding the Asian countries that are putting most of the plastic pollution into the Pacific Ocean when you do it. So it's really a silly policy. But I think, when VPIRG does things like this, it's more about an impulse to control people than it is to really be about helping the environment or a cause. So
we'll end our conversation on this note, but we will continue again next week, where we will look at how ordinary Vermonters can push back against an activist legislature that is funded by special interests with deep pockets. Join us then.